Oh, that's quite hot. Not the hairstyle. The computer. Yes. Get the fan going. Whoops. There we go. All set. All right. There we go. It's starting already. Oh, done. All right. Monday already, beginning of the week. And work continues. Getting cooler outside, but afternoons are still pretty warm. Got in 2 workouts, so that was good. Barista competition in Chaoyang at Fortune Plaza Mall, and then a massive rainfall just as we're getting home. Great. Modern Ukrainian music playlist I created on my language vlog if you want to have a listen. I started the Delta. All that and more. And if you're watching on the live stream, you get to see what kind of haircut I got today. Well, no, I don't have a haircut. What kind of hairstyle I'm sporting. I got the, I've been told it's a hipster style, I guess. 5 years too late is what I've been told. Probably because I'm by no means forging any new paths. I'm not a pioneer of any sort. Mainly a follower, a very lagging follower. Anyway, folks, it is Monday, September 5th, 2022. I'm Steven Sersky. Hope you guys are doing well. Had a good weekend. Yes, here in Beijing, things are getting a little bit cooler, and it's actually deceiving because in the apartment it can be cool, but then you go outside, you put on a long sleeve shirt, and you go outside, and you're like, it's so hot out here, especially in the sun. It can be quite warm. Not a bad thing. I think we got another month before it gets cold, not just in the apartments, but then also outside, and then it's another 8 weeks. Yeah, another 2 months until they turn the truly centralized heating on. Let's hope they do, because who knows? Maybe with all the lockdowns and everything, it's not going to be able to go shovel the coal into the plants, which actually coal stocks have been doing well today. Apparently, the blackouts are continuing on in some parts of the country, so I'm not sure. Beijing, I mean, as usual, is pretty normal. Hard to judge much of what's going on in the country when you live in one of the more affluent areas of Beijing, which is a good thing for my sanity, but a bad thing for having any sort of pulse on the goings on in the rest of the country. So it's a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, I do appreciate it that I am situated where I am. Did manage to get 2 workouts in. I was thinking about this because last week I was talking about switching it up from going from 2 workouts to 1 workout. And I was thinking, well, because I was also thinking well, what if I did 1 workout every single day? I kind of like having workout days and non-workout days, having that break. I might start taking some time off anyway, but I'm not going to lie. I mean, I have been progressing. I don't really post progress pics, but I do take them on my own, and I keep track of my weight. And on Saturday, I mean, I hit lower numbers. I dropped even more weight. I was up from 2 weeks ago, but I was still down quite a bit. And I'll tell you, I mean, I lost a decent amount. And although I still, got some fat to drop, I'm not overly concerned about how my body looks, to tell you the truth. It's it's not one of these aesthetic things I'm doing. Although I have been telling people I do want a flat stomach, but this is, and I was saying for my, my birthday this year, but if it takes another year to get it, what do I care? Another 6 months, whatever. I mean, it's not about hitting the goal or it's not about hitting the date goal or necessarily getting the picture just yet. It's about being able to develop the schedule, the process that leads to that goal without major substantial, rebound risky sort of changes. But I mean, I can't crash diet this. I can't. I mean, I guess the one thing I could do is I could do a longer period of fast. So right now I stop eating at around 8:30, give or take, and then I start eating it at 8:30. That's only 12 hours. But usually I have a workout before then, before I start eating in the morning. Now, if I finish eating at 6, workout at 6 or 7, and then so you're pushing your body into that fat burning stage, using up the fat stores to power through the workout, and then eating after that. Seems like a good idea. And I'll tell you, working from home is actually made this a whole lot more possible, made it a lot easier, I should say, not just possible, but a lot easier to manage. And well, all things, I actually just tweeted out an article about on Fox News or Fox Business News, which, I mean, not the greatest source of information, but it seemed timely because the conversation did come up recently in which, well, what if your boss, well, do I really have a boss, or do I have a bunch of people who tick boxes against me, right? And I think that's sort of how it goes. What if your boss finds out that you're looking for a job? And it was voiced that, well, you got to be careful. I'm like, I've heard the opposing argument, though, if you, or sort of a counter argument, that if you do work for an organization that is offended by you looking for another job and then does nothing to reconcile, like to sort of remedy the situation, other than like disciplinary action, like if their only response is disciplinary action, I think you have your answer about who you're working for and how long you're going to be employed anyway. I think that sort of speaks for itself. Now, granted, in China, being an expat, if the company still has to follow rules and regulations, right? They can't just off you. They can't just let you go for no reason. And they usually have to give you some sort of warning as well. And I know as an employee, you're supposed to give 30 days notice if you resign prior to the ending of your contract. But the idea that, you got to watch what you say. If you found out someone in your employ was looking for another job, what would your reaction be? I mean, I guess it would sort of be like, well, what's making you unhappy? What's making you thinking about leaving? Typically, it's a lot of people would sort of think about, just sort of keeping an eye on the scene, on the market sort of thing, right? Like checking out what's available, whether or not you'd want to move. Like, keep in mind when you jump jobs, I mean, you're gonna have to get used to a whole new set of people, and you're gonna have to get used to new rules. And it's the good thing about changing a job is that it's exciting for at least the first 6 months. There's a honeymoon period, of course, 6-7 months. Even the first year, you still got a lot to learn, right? And that can be good because then it keeps you distracted from what could be a very monotonous job or work or whatever else, like the reality, if you will. But at the same time, you're going through that, and once that wears off, how do you deal with a job becoming mundane? And I think a lot of people face this, especially as they get older, and if they ever have families and stuff like that, it gets harder to get out of a situation like that, to extricate yourself without a very good reason for leaving the job. I know, I know some guys who have spouses, like wives, and it's like they can't just leave the job. There's no, if they did that and said, well, I just want to sit at home and write or become a YouTube Instagram influencer, unless they're packing like 10,000, 100,000 viewers and some sort of cash is coming in from that already, I think the wife would be like, well, if you quit your job, then I might just have to go move in with the parents again, if they're not already living with the parents. Good question. Not sure how this works. In China, lots of families live with the parents. If the Uyghur the foreigner person, or a person who's employed and has a visa attached to the employment, if they quit the job and they can't work, or they refuse to work for because they want to become an influencer instead, but they don't have any cash because of it, I mean, what does the Chinese family do? I have never heard of this before, so it's a very good question. Anyway, so I did manage to get the 2 workouts in. I veered off topic there quite a bit, but the 2 workouts, yeah. So I was actually trying out the steel mace today, and it was a little bit awkward to get used to, actually, because it's very long, and I'm not very tall. Like I'm not the size of some of these guys who are swinging these things. But at the same time, I know there are shorter guys who also use these things, so it has to be possible. I did notice a huge difference going from the steel mace to the steel club. Substantial, like a wow, off balance, substantial difference. And the steel mace I got was only 6 kilos, is only 6 kilos. The steel club is 10, but it's shorter, so it's easier for me to sort of fling around a little bit. Whereas the steel mace, I'm not, I guess I've been using the steel club for so long that some of the movements, they're not as difficult as they would have been 6 months ago, as they were 6 months ago. Uh, I guess if I had a lighter steel club 6 months ago, I could have worked through that sort of progressive staging of lifting these weights, of swinging these weights. Now I'm faced with a lighter steel mace, which is a little bit more awkward to use, but doesn't offer the same resistance, weight resistance in terms of or volume to lift and swing that the steel club does. But brought them both out and was swinging them around, and yep, people were looking, going, "What's he doing? Why?" Something interesting over the weekend. Girlfriend was like, "Hey, do you want to go to a barista competition?" What? Do I? I don't know. Do I? Is it something that I should go see? It wasn't too far. Not like this. There's a coffee conference that happens every September as well here in Beijing. But that happens, where is it? It's like north part of Chaoyang, not super north, but just beyond San Yuan Chao. There's a conference center there somewhere. It's a massive conference center. Horribly depressing place because there's no trees around there. It's it's one of those typical lots of cement in the blazing sun, and you're like, why wouldn't they put any shade up? Why from the entry booth to the conference hall is just it's a gauntlet of sun-drenched stone. You don't have to maneuver anything, but I mean, now you do with the COVID requirements that are all in place. But I'll tell you, this baffles me about how this country is building its locations, where there's these massive open areas in a city and in a country where they know it gets super hot in the summer, and to walk across that pavement, I mean, it's horrible. It's not very fun, to tell you the truth. But a city of 24 million people, maybe they're seeing traffic flows that I don't see, so maybe it's usually packed. I've never seen it that way. So, but this coffee conference goes on at this place. We tried to go once and it was canceled. Then last year, I think it was canceled. And then this year, I think it's going to be online. So we've actually never been there. We've only heard about it. But this past weekend, there was this barista competition at the Fortune Plaza Mall, so not too far away. Like, it was cycling distance, even walking distance. And she knew a few people who were involved in the competition. They didn't win. They didn't even really place very high. But some of the creations that were being done, I mean, if you could get past the fact that they were wasting a lot of coffee, water, and milk, then it was kind of neat to see. But if you sort of kept tally of how many cups of coffee were being made, you're kind of like, well, and they weren't serving them to anybody. And they were using these the cheap Lavazza beans, so like these big bags of beans, except for the Starbucks people. The Starbucks people brought their own reserve black bag beans. All the other baristas work for these cafes that I don't know if they're not craft roasters, but they're like small cafes. They might use selected coffee beans. I don't know. They weren't really promoting who was in what companies were involved. The baristas, so it was in two parts. There was the coffee making, so they had to make an espresso, and I think they had to make like a latte or a cappuccino or something, like another foamy drink second. So that was the first round, and there was 22 baristas. They all they had 3 minutes or 5 minutes or something like that to do their thing. After that, it was the latte art competition, and that was, I guess it was all 22, and they went for 3 rounds. It did seem to go on a little bit, but at the same time, it was kind of neat to see what they're doing. They range from like the very simple ones, like I think I have pictures of these. I should still have pictures of them. They range from really simple, flowers and stuff like that. Flowers. What's the other simple one? The heart. Yeah. So they have a heart, something like this, where your typical what you would see in most cappuccinos made around the country. But then they also had some very neat ones where they had like people making horses and seahorses. And then the really cool one was actually how they made a lion. And you're going, how do you do that? So some of the hearts were very complex, but the lions were very neat to see that they made those. So it's quite neat to be able to see just how you couldn't really see how because they were doing it, but of course, with the art of latte art making, they had the cup and the stainless the cup, the milk foam stuff very close to their face, watching what they were doing, right? So it was hard to see exactly how they were drawing it, but you could see how their hand technique and stuff like that. It was kind of neat. And they did have cameras watching. There's a couple live streamers there as well that were covering the event. The one video I posted of it got like 3,000 views or something like that on YouTube. So I'm like, wow, people watch this. It was a 15-second clip, so maybe that's why people watched it. But pretty neat to see just sort of how crazy good these baristas were. All mostly young, obviously in their 20s and stuff like that. The horses were pretty neat, and the lions, I think, were the neatest sort of to see what they were doing. After 3 rounds of latte art competition, they whittled it down to 3 guys, and then I think they did 1, so that was fine. And so how it worked was that for the latte art competition itself, they had 3 minutes to make a cup, to make a design, and there was one who started again midway. And I'm not sure if I think they got disqualified as a result. They were only allowed to make 1 cup, but it was confusing. Was it 3 minutes or was it 1 cup? Like which rule was sort of like the be all end all of it, right? But so each one made 1 cup basically, and then they would put it on a table in the center, and there was these 6 judges that would throw these sort of poker chips towards the cup that was represented the best, sort of had the best artwork. And you could tell, like, sometimes they just flubbed it. It's like, I know that's supposed to be a flower, but that's not a flower. I know it's supposed to be a heart, but it looks more like a splotch, right? So things like that, where you could just tell that sometimes it was they had made a mistake, and they obviously paid for it in the voting round. And that happened 3 times, and then finally the 3rd round or 4th round, I guess, was the top 3 that were pretty neat to see. And they made it was the letters CBD and like 3 little leaves. So it seemed actually pretty simple. They all made the same one, and just the one who sort of wrote it the best. I guess the detail was trying to get it like making this really small leaves. Like how they normally have like if they do a flower, they might make those little leaves around the flower in the milk foam. That was kind of neat. But that, and then they had to write the letters CBD. All right, so they did it. Pretty cool. The only problem was that we decided to, once we left, I was like, well, we stop off at Burger King, eat Burger King. I haven't had that in a while, but after that, it was like 5:30 or so. I don't know what happened. Was it they finished at 5:10, but then like no one really left, but the judges weren't really saying anything. And then one guy got interviewed by a bunch of cameras, and they still didn't really announce the winner. So we're like, okay, no, I'm hungry. We got to go. So we went to Burger King, and we had a couple of burgers there. And then after that, on the way home, getting kind of dark outside. We're like, we got time. Whatever. We'll make it. Let's go to Wadome and get these chocolate mooncakes, because it's mooncake season. So we finally get there, and on the way home, I'm kind of like, is that a light show or is that lightning? Like that seems a little sporadic for a light show and seems a little broad for a light show as well. And then we're like halfway from Wadome to the apartment, and then the wind just picks up, dust and everything in the eyes, and then you feel it like the hard splashes of water, and then it just poured, and then it was hail, and it was like within 3 seconds, 30 seconds, drenched. Like, guess I should have listened to the girl when she said, we should run home. Yes, we should have. And I said, no, I'll be fine. I was wrong. Jeez. And we get soaked as a result. Oops. I got whacked in the head too with a hailstone. That thing hurt. All right. So that was basically the weekend. It's getting a bit cooler out here. I'm running up against 20 minutes. I will cover these next little bits tomorrow and possibly even the next day. So you have something to look forward to as well. Hitting 20 minutes. I want to let you guys get back to your job, back to your work. I know you got a lot of other things going on, back to school and everything. A lot of the kids, a lot of the teachers I see are leaving their apartments a lot early at like 6:30 when I'm going out for my workout. They're all going to work. I was like, yeah, I still work at home and you guys probably make more than me. I'm not going to lie. Probably do. And you're probably also not looking for other jobs. Unlike some people I know. Anyway, yes, the departures continue. And it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. At the same time, the good thing is that we're sort of, it's not going to be as busy for the next couple of months or so. It might kick up again in November, December, which is good because, yes, I have started the Delta course, which is, I can see a lot of reading. I'm going to take up a lot of my time, but I will talk about that again tomorrow. Okay, folks, I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Show notes, tracks, and vids up on my website, stevensersky.com. Hope you guys had a great weekend, and we'll have a great week going forward. We'll talk again. Bye-bye. Ding, ding.